So welcome to Will Markow of Lightcast. Thank you, Will, for joining us for our video live, See It to Be It Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie.
Yeah, well, Will, you've been an amazing advocate for the mission of the Cyber Guild and a speaker for us on many occasions, including at Uniting Women in Cyber. So I'm delighted that we'll be able to share all that information. You have quite a unique role when it comes to cybersecurity. So can you just explain a little bit, how did you find yourself in cybersecurity?
Yeah, happy to. So I usually say that I took a back door into cybersecurity. I'm not a cybersecurity practitioner per se. You definitely don't want me securing your networks, but I do analyze the cybersecurity workforce. And I've been doing that now with Lightcast for over 11 years. And it really started because even back then, people were saying, hey, we couldn't find enough people to secure our digital networks. We just don't have enough cybersecurity workers. As a result, many organizations were just starting to have the first wave of major headline-grabbing breaches. And the workforce challenges within the industry were one of the common reasons that people were pointing to as why we were having so many breaches. And we started to analyze the cybersecurity workforce, and we found that there was a lot of demand for better information about the cybersecurity workforce so that we could better prepare people for the field. Just to give a little bit of a history lesson and on how we used to prepare people for cyber and how we used to learn about the cybersecurity workforce, the government would track really only one job called information security analysts related to cyber. But we all know there are many different types of cybersecurity roles. You can't just pigeonhole them all into one monolithic information security analyst position. And there wasn't really much information about the individual skills or credentials that were needed across the cybersecurity landscape. And so we came in, we tried to analyze the cybersecurity workforce with a little bit more granularity than what had traditionally been the case. And we found that there was a lot of demand within the industry to have that kind of information so that we could better prepare people for jobs in cyber and expand the cybersecurity talent pipeline, since you really can't prepare workers if you don't know anything about the jobs you're trying to prepare them for.
Totally. Or if you do, they don't know what they're getting into, and then people don't stick with it. So you have a lot of experience in and around the profession, I like to say, rather than industry, of cybersecurity. What is your perspective on, or what does a positive cyber mindset mean to you?
It's a great question. And I think that a lot of it comes down to the word perseverance and resilience for me. I think that cyber, it can be a tough field for a lot of people. You can work long hours, you can deal with some pretty stressful situations. And I think if you have the desire to persevere throughout that, then that's a good trait to have. But then I also think the term resilience comes to mind because in trying to deal with all of these difficult situations, you're going to have to figure out how can you bounce back. Nobody in cyber gets things 100% right all of the time. Even the biggest organizations in the world now with the most sophisticated cybersecurity teams and defenses, they're still facing a constant flood of attacks, and some of them are going to get through. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being resilient so that when you're not perfect, you can bounce back as quickly as possible. And I think that's a good mindset, both for organizations, but also for individuals within the field.
Yeah, and that comes up time and time again when I speak to experts like you and luminaries of the Cyber Guild. Just Candace Frost and I were just talking about this the other week, how it's not a case of if it's going to happen, it's a case of when it's going to happen. And that view of resilience, not being perfect, but bouncing back is a recurring thing. So that's really helpful. Thanks, Will. If you think about the challenges, but also the upsides of cybersecurity, what would you offer as a top tip to people who are interested in transferring into cybersecurity as a career? And that's transferring life experiences, knowledge, skills, or whatever. What's your thoughts?
So I think that cyber, first off, is a fantastic field. Even though it definitely comes with its challenges, I think that it is one of the most rewarding fields that you can transition into, because literally the work that you're doing is protecting some of the most important information in the world. You're protecting both personal information, you're protecting organizational information, and that's a very rewarding role that I don't think a lot of other jobs can really compete with, because you're really having a significant impact on people's lives by protecting their digital security. So the first thing I'd say is just recognize how rewarding a field it can be and how it can really be a mission-driven field. I think, and it's also worth people thinking through, do they like working in more of a mission-driven field? I think some people are motivated by different things, but some people, if they are truly motivated by what they are doing, by the underlying mission, then that is where they want to be. And I think that the people who really thrive in cyber and who stick within cyber are those people who are entering it for the right reasons and saying, yes, I do want to have more of a mission focus to my career. I do believe in what I'm going to be doing by protecting people's digital security and privacy. And I think that can be a strong motivator when you're, up late at night trying to deal with some of the major security issues of your organization. So that's one thing I would say, is just have that mindset going in. But beyond that, I'd also say just take stock of what you already know you can do, what skills you already have, what are you already good at. There's a good chance you will find a place to apply those in cyber. It's not the case that the only job in cyber is a hacker. I think that we have that stereotype of the hoodie wearing hacker in the back. There are many other types of cyber jobs. And no matter what you are interested in, there's a good chance you will find a place for yourself within the cybersecurity world. And so I would say, as a first step, just take a self-inventory. What skills do you have? What are the things you like to do? What are you good at? And then do some research to figure out where can that be applied within cybersecurity, since there are many different flavors of cybersecurity jobs that could be a strong opportunity for you.
Yeah, that's so true. A lot of people just don't understand. We talk about helping, and certainly the Cyber Guild helping to attract and retain greater diversity of talent and thinking in cybersecurity. But the point you're making is a really valid one, that cybersecurity is a really diverse profession. There's everything from policy making, governance, risk and compliance to coding and other things. So it is diverse in nature. So that's nicely said. We were talking there about people who are interested in coming into or getting into a cyber as a meaningful career. What would you say to people who are in the more formative years of their cyber career? What advice would you give them in terms of where they might want to prioritize what credentials or qualifications or experiences they might want to go for to get traction and be successful in those early stages? Because often I'm hearing that retention within 4 to 7 years is now becoming a big deal. So what would you say to those people that are in, how to stick with it and progress?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first things you can do to make sure you stick with cyber is to make sure you're going into the right branch of cyber. And this goes back to what we were just talking about, of making sure you're doing that self-inventory, making sure you're taking an honest look at what you enjoy doing, what you're good at doing, what skills you already have, and then figuring out where can you apply that within cyber. Maybe you'll make a great pen tester. Maybe you'll want to go on the cyber policy side, like you just mentioned. Maybe you will want to do something entirely different within the cyber landscape. Just make sure that you have a good understanding of what that is, and don't view cyber as this monolithic field where there's only one particular career pathway that you can take. So I think that's the first step, to make sure you're starting your career on the right foot. But then once you've done that, there are a couple of things that you can do that I think a lot of people in their formative years within cyber would benefit from. I think the first is figure out what are the most in-demand skill sets, both in terms of the foundational skills that everybody's going to need within cyber. A lot of those are going to come down to basic networking skills and other basic computer science skills. It could be some basic programming skills, things like that. But it also then will be the case that you need to figure out what are some of the emerging skill sets that you're going to need to develop capabilities around, because those foundational skills, they're table stakes. But it's those emerging skills that are really going to help you stand out to employers and to further your career within the field once you get your foot in the door. So what are some of those fields right now? Well, we still see that cloud security is a huge one. Obviously, everybody's talking about AI and the intersection of AI with cyber. So learning how to work with new AI-enabled tools is a big one. And then we also still see that just having more of a risk management mindset as opposed to a compliance or check off the
Yes.
box mindset
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
still highly prioritized by many organizations. And so I would encourage people to figure out what are those skills, both the table stakes foundational skills as well as those emerging skills that they can be developing right now to stand out from the pack. In
Yeah.
addition to that, though, I would also say look at different credentials. There are a lot of different certifications or related credentials that can also signal to employers that you have some foundational capabilities within cyber and that you've gone through the effort, put in the effort to go out and get those credentials, whether it's Security Plus, whether it's some of the GAC credentials out there or others. There are many excellent entry-level certifications that you can focus on that many employers demand and will help you signal that you are motivated, that you went through all of the effort to go out and get these credentials, and that you have some foundational skills that employers are going to value.
Yeah. So it's really keeping curious and interested, I think, on what's around the corner because it's so fast changing, isn't it? And what I'm also taking from what you say is technically showing that you both are motivated and have the aptitude to continually learn because there is, I mean, this is a technical subject, so there are lots of ways in and through cyber, and it's still underpinning a technical domain. And also, I think to show that you're networking and up to date with what's going on in people and organizations, of course, plug for the Cyber Guild. You know, being active in networks like ours also helps show that you're motivated to connect with people and to know what's going on. So those are really great ideas. Thank you. You are a great supporter of Uniting Women in Cyber, and also you've spoken to us a number of times, but last year you came, you're an alum, one of our esteemed male alums for Uniting Women in Cyber, and you'll be back again this year. Thank you. What motivated you to get involved in Uniting Women in Cyber, and what advice do you have for anyone who's coming or planning to come? How do they make the most out of this phenomenal day with people like you?
Yeah, well, in terms of what motivated me to get involved with Uniting Women in Cyber, it really takes a village. And I think that you've built a very strong community of like-minded people who are all very supportive of one another, and who really want to expand the aperture of the cybersecurity talent pipeline to as many people as possible and really make it as welcoming as possible to different people from different backgrounds. I think that's really what the field needs. I think for a long time, there's a bit of a branding issue in cybersecurity. Talked about a little bit earlier, but there was a stereotype of the hoodie wearing hacker typing away in a basement somewhere. And that's not the only type of person who can thrive within cyber. And so I think that what you've done is really helped to build a very welcoming community to as many people as possible. And that's a community I wanted to be a part of and I wanted to support. And I think that one of the just main things that I found as well when I went last year for the first time was just how warm everybody was. I think that sometimes you go to these conferences and it's very professional and businesslike, and there was plenty of that as well, but everybody was just very welcoming and considerate. And I told somebody afterwards, I don't think I've ever seen so many people hug at a conference before because everybody was just so friendly with one another. And it was just a really, really welcoming environment. And I think that's exactly what cybersecurity needs so that we can bring as many people in to the field from as many backgrounds as possible so that they feel welcome within the industry.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm really looking forward to this year because this year we're going to get hands-on with the new toolkit that you've developed for CyberSeek, hiring for skills, not credentials, or hiring for skills and cybersecurity toolkit. I think I should correct myself. But thank you and looking forward to seeing you. I like to say United Women in Cyber, it's a place where people want to know your name. So you got to be prepared for the hugs. Good to hear that. So you like me, well, you're younger than I am, but what would you tell your younger self? If only you knew then what you know now, what would you say?
Well, I don't think we have enough time to list all of the things I'd like to tell my younger self, but I think I would probably just say, be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes and it's okay. There's always going to be some bumps along the road. You're going to make some really, really dumb decisions, as we all do when we're young. And I think it's, being able to be resilient, like I talked about earlier, figure out how to bounce back from that, and don't expect to be perfect. be kind to yourself and accept your faults, and try to learn from your losses and come back stronger the next time.
Well, just so you know, I find you a very kind person to interact with. So you're clearly listening to yourself. Thank you. Just sharing a little bit about you as well, Will. What would you say have been the biggest influencers for you in terms of the way you now live your life and the career trajectory you're taking?
Yeah, it's a great question. Also, don't have enough time to list all of the people who have contributed to where I am today. Like I said, it takes a village, but I think one or two people who stand out to me. One is my grandmother. Growing up, I was very close with her, and I think she was a very inspiring woman for many reasons. She was a bit of a trailblazer back in her day. I mean, she was my grandfather's boss back in the 40s, and she she was an engineer. She was one of the arguably most successful women in her company. She eventually decided to go a different route when she married my grandfather. She became a homemaker, but she was still a bit of a force of nature, whether it's in PTA meetings or wherever it may have been. I'm told that nobody within the school administration and my father's high school wanted to interact with my grandmother because they knew it was not going to go well if they disagreed on something. So I think she is just somebody who I think had no interest in conforming to stereotypes, and B, really demonstrated what a petite 95-pound 5'1" woman can really do when she sets her mind to something. So she's definitely somebody who I always looked up to. She was also just an incredibly kind person, and was one of the people I was closest with throughout my childhood.
Oh, that's really nice. Off script question, but what are you reading right now that you can share?
That is a great question. So, I have very what most people would probably call boring taste in in books and other things that I read, but I actually really enjoy reading textbooks and some of the most boring academic literature out there. I just find it fascinating.
That's
So
good.
a lot of the things I've been looking at recently actually relate to the benefits of diversity and diverse thinking within organizations. And there's actually a little bit of research out there that is starting to use mathematics to explain why having more diverse perspectives can actually lead to better outcomes. And I find it fascinating. I won't go into all of the equations, not that I understand them anyway, but I think one very simple thing that I took away from it that I thought was a good way of describing why diversity can be better than just always hiring the people who do the best on tests or look the best on paper is that let's say you give a 10-question exam to 3 people, and you want to choose the 2 of those people who are the best, and let's say that 2 of them get 8 of the questions right and one of them gets 6 of them right. Most people would say you want to hire the people who have the 8 questions right. But what if those 2 people got all of the same 8 questions right, and the other person got the other 2 right that they got wrong? Then if you have the diverse perspectives, you can answer all the questions correctly. And so I think that's something that I'm trying to find ways to apply in some of the work that I do now.
Well, wow. Well, thankfully you're reading the right stuff for the job that you're in, helping us all. And is there anything on your bucket list that you still haven't done? Because of course you've been to United Women in Cyber and you're coming back again. So you knocked that one off your bucket list.
Yeah.
Anything else we can help you with? No, seriously. Anything else on your bucket list?
Well, I amazingly have never been to France, and I really want to go. So I think I'm probably going to go next year. I'm actually, I guess another thing on my bucket list, maybe I should have led with this, is getting married, which I'm doing in October.
I didn't realize it's this year. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So we're thinking about going to France for the honeymoon. So maybe I can get 2 of those checked off the bucket list.
Well, I might be able to help you with that. I'm meeting someone in a couple of weeks. Actually, they'll be coming to your event in June from France. So let me introduce you.
Oh, wonderful. Looking
Make it a
forward to it.
business trip. Well, thank you, Will Markow from Lightcast, for all you do for the Cyber Guild and all you do for increasing diversity and building the cybersecurity ecosystem. And look forward very much to seeing you in a couple of months. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. It's always a pleasure, and really enjoyed the conversation as always.